How's it going, everybody? Johnny Guns Investigation, Thursday, October 19th. Here to bring you guys some big details today. Everything is exciting on this hearing that went on today. So we got Richard Allen back in court, and the defense lawyers quit, which we're going to get into that here in a minute. So what we're having today is we're going to have Court TV back on, going over a few things on how the trial was set up today. And we're going to have one of their guys outside the courthouse showing us what's going on outside the courthouse. And then we'll also have the judge on what she's deciding on what's going to happen today after all this turmoil. For like what we discussed yesterday, going over what's the new evidence, or not evidence, the pictures that are out of the children, how it's turning everything around, just completely turning everything around, and not on a good surface, okay? And this is talking about the Delphi, Indiana, Richard Allen with Abby and Libby, who were murdered in a very bad way, okay? So today was the hearing to try to get him moved from the prison that he's in to a jail, because he's been for a long time in prison, like he's convicted already of a crime. You got to remember, you're not convicted to proven guilty. So he has not even been a trial or anything, and they already have him in prison. So he's trying to get moved out of that prison and back into the jail system, because he's being abused allegedly by the prison guards with the Odism patches on their shoulders and their belief. That's their religion. It's a ritualistic Odism belief, okay? And they're controlling him in that prison from what he says, not letting him eat, letting him sleep on the floor, controlling his conversations with his mom and his wife, listening to everything he says. And he's allegedly saying he's being threatened by these guards. So we're going to watch Court TV. We'll listen to this clip and we'll go ahead and talk about everything. And then here we go. You guys enjoy.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is a big hour coming up. So make sure if you're walking around the house, no, sit down. You need to watch. You need to listen right now. We're going to begin in Delphi.
Join in conversation.
Abby Williams, Libby German, two young girls who lost their lives back in 2017. They were murdered. It was brutal, an absolutely brutal murder scene. It was a mystery for 5 years, unsolved. Then Richard Allen was arrested for the murder. The defense claims he's 1,000% innocent, and they are actually pointing the finger at some local Odinists, people who practice Odinism, which is an ancient Nordic religion, the god Odin. It's also a religion, according to the defense, that's been hijacked by white nationalists in this country, especially in the prison population. So that's their defense. He's going to be in court tomorrow. Let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is joining us live tonight from Fort Wayne, Indiana, where all this is happening. Matt, great to see you. And a big headline here for folks here at Court TV, but for folks who want to hear and see more about this case, cameras
right outside the courthouse.
Courtroom in Indiana, something I've never said in 2 decades at Court TV.
Right. And Vinny, nice to see you as well. And it's our team that is here on the ground, our producers and our camera people that'll be inside this Allen County Courthouse here behind me. And they're going to be bringing that to us as it unfolds tomorrow. This first time that we're getting a glimpse inside this courthouse, and also during this case, ever since Allen was arrested for the murders of Abby and Libby almost a year ago to the date. Remember, after he was arrested, we had learned that he made his first court appearance, no cameras there, and every court appearance since, no cameras. We have just been able to see him walk in and out of the courthouse. He has that Kevlar vest. He is ankles shackled. He has those handcuffs and, you know, looking very thin and very different from that first arrest. But we are now going to be able to see him in this courthouse and how he acts. Now, another big difference in all of this, Vinny, we are here in Allen County because this is where Judge Fran Gull presides normally. She usually travels to Carroll County in the Delphi area, but she's requiring all parties to be here tomorrow in her courtroom.
Okay, let's talk about what's on the docket and the agenda tomorrow. Let's begin with the leaked evidence photos. We were talking about that on this show last night. It's a big issue. A lot of people unhappy. What do we expect to hear?
Well, you know, they're very sensitive and they're very graphic photos, what we're being told that were leaked to the public and what ultimately led to an investigation, possibly by Indiana State Police. We tried to independently confirm that, but again, everyone is under a gag order still to this date, unable to talk about any of the specifics in the case. But it could come up here with Judge Gull tomorrow during this hearing. Because remember, this was an unscheduled hearing happening here in this case in Indiana. But after those so-called leak photos made the news, that's when she called for this hearing ahead of what we already knew was scheduled and on the docket, that October 31st, that Halloween hearing, which we are expecting to be something in the nature of that Franks hearing, where the defense has filed many motions that we talked about, saying that the search warrant for his home, Richard Allen's home, was not constitutional because they say that the law enforcement lied to get the judge to sign off on it, Vinny.
So, sort of an emergency type hearing that wasn't on the schedule. They had one scheduled for the end of the month. The leaked photos. Now, these leaked photos, my understanding is that they've been leaked to some podcasters. We had two of them on last night who said, yeah, we got these unsolicited. We deleted them. We went to law enforcement about all of it. So my guess is there is some investigation and all that will come up. But the Franks hearing is what everyone's been talking about, what the defense filed in all their motion papers, making all these allegations about this Nordic religion, a ritualistic crime scene, pressure placed on the defendant by prison guards who also practiced this ancient Nordic religion and threatened him or potentially threatened him to confess to the killings to his wife on the phone from the prison. Wild allegations, but that is or is not necessarily on the docket for tomorrow.
We don't know. We expect something of the nature to be argued tomorrow. We don't actually know how long this hearing is going to go, but there's been so many back and forth and public fighting in these court memorandums that have been made public, because remember, everyone's under a gag order. They can't hold news conferences or speak to the press about this, even the defense attorneys. So all of these wild allegations have been made in these court filings, and that could be something addressed by the judge here tomorrow. And the podcasters that you were talking about, yes, that's the Murder Sheet podcast. They have made allegations that they received those photos of the crime scene. And they say, according to them, that it was somehow connected to an employee of the defense team, a former employee, Vinny.
Now, what condition can we expect Richard Allen to be in? This has been a big issue. He's
definitely not
good. Out
good.
of that prison forever. Allegations are, again, that these prison guards who were wearing patches that could be associated with the ancient Nordic religion, this paganistic heathenry, Odinism, whatever it is. I'm not familiar with it. People can practice whatever religion they want. But if there's some connection between the murder and the corrections officers and the pressure, and that somehow he's being treated poorly by these guards, they deny it all. But what is he looking like, and what can we expect him to look like in court tomorrow?
Well, in transport, he hasn't looked very well, right? And all of those pictures that were released by the defense team back in April, after they were making claims that he was being treated like a prisoner of war, having to sleep on a mat, he was being abused, he was unable to sleep. He was unable to talk to his attorneys or his wife without being recorded or observed or closely watched by these prison guards. Those are all the accusations by the defense team. So they have really been pushing hard to get him transferred out of the facility where he is right now. And keep in mind, this is such a high-profile case that, according to the state, he's being kept in safekeeping at a prison instead of a jail, where everyone else there has already been convicted of the crime. So yes, you bring up the allegations.
He's not been convicted yet.
Watching
and
over
he's in
him.
prison.
those signed affidavits where they've said that they are no longer allowed to wear the patches, but they admitted to wearing the patches. So it'll be interesting to see if any of this is brought up tomorrow.
It never wore.
And who's going to be there tomorrow?
The family.
Parties are required himself. They have required him to be transported here to Allen County. And then also, we know the court setup, there is going to be at least 2 rows set up for the victim's family. Libby and Abby's family are going to be there. We're not going to be able to show you in the gallery. And of course, we want to give them their privacy. Everybody here is going to be under strict gag order still, so they're not going to be able to address the media or the public afterwards. But we expect it to be a packed house. I mean, this is one of those cases that has really impacted people from coast to coast, especially here in Indiana. You know, Barbara McDonald and I, my producer, and I were in Delphi just a couple hours ago today. Everybody is still talking about the case, and it's quite interesting. 1 year after an arrest in this case, Vinny, there are still wanted posters of the 2 suspect sketches on every single storefront window in that small town, a town of 3,000 people in that town square. It's just something else. People are still visiting that bridge, that Monon High Bridge, where this all happened. And it looks like they're paying their respects because we see flowers there.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, so we're going to have cameras in the courtroom tomorrow. There's a trial scheduled January 8th.
Cameras in the courtroom. Cameras in the courtroom.
New Year. Will there be cameras in the courtroom moving forward?
For sure.
So that's
Definitely.
what we're going to watch for with tomorrow. So this is our first opportunity to have cameras in this courtroom and in this courthouse. So of course, you know, we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to be looking at scheduling, right? What will be discussed tomorrow? Does that lead to that Frank's hearing on the 31st on Halloween, which again is kind of poetic because that's the last time we were in Indiana when they announced his arrest in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then does that lead to the trial still happening in January? Or does something happen with the defense team? Are there changes? This is something that we're going to be bringing you as we learn it tomorrow.
Matt Johnson in Indiana tonight. Matt,
Okay,
great.
we're going to pause it there, and we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about this before we go into the courtroom and see what the judge has in the hearing today on all this things going on here. I mean, we have the attorneys who just walked out and quit, which I knew something was going to happen. I mean, here, their defense, all of a sudden, these photos of these little girls, Abby and Libby, are out and released to, not to the public yet, but I'm going to tell you right now, it probably will happen before October 31st, Halloween, which is going to be the next hearing, Halloween, you know, so these Otisms will be out there in full task on that day. But what I want to talk about is Richard Allen, the alleged killer of these 2 girls. I mean, is he getting abused by these prison guards that were wearing these Odinistic patches on their shoulders? Were they making him sleep on the floor, not feeding him? And we know, and that's what he's allegedly saying. Monitoring all the times he's on the phone with the mom and the grandmother, or his mom and his wife, and always watching him when he's speaking to his attorneys and threatening him. Is that really happening? We don't know, but is it happening? And he was supposed to be moved to a jail and not to prison. And that's what the defense wanted to do in the hearing today, is get him out of that prison, because he is not he's not even convicted of any crime in his life yet. You're not convicted to prove in the court of law that you committed these crimes by the jury. So he wanted to get moved into the regular jail. So now with the judge today, I can't imagine what she's going to come up with. The 2 attorneys walked out. Now what are we going to do? And Richard Allen, going back to Richard Allen in Delphi, Indiana, the small town of 3,000, you got to remember, he was a pharmaceutical technician, very well known to the community. Everybody knows everybody in that town, definitely knows of him, very talkative to everybody that comes into the store. Never word of anything of any kind of Otism comes out of his mouth. And now he is in prison, not jail, not being held in jail till the trial. He is in prison. So now let's go into the courthouse and let's see what the judge has to say. And we'll get into that. Here we go.
We on? All right, we are on the record in state of
County
Indiana.
Guns Investigation.
Alan
Hit that like and
120
subscribe.
1.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. McClellan, Mr. Luttrell, for your patience. We've had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this afternoon, the defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation of Mr. Allen. Mr. Baldwin made an oral motion to withdraw. Granted that oral motion to withdraw, and Mr. Rosie will be submitting a written motion to withdraw, I'm assuming within the next couple of days. They have confirmed with the court that Mr. Allen's financial situation remains static, meaning he is continuing to be entitled to appointed counsel. I will reach out to public defenders to make that appointment. As Mr. Allen is now without counsel, I've ordered him transported back to the Department of Correction.
They took a hike.
Mr. McClellan, I know that we have already scheduled a hearing in the Carroll Circuit Court October 31st at 9 a.m. I'd like to maintain that hearing if we can, please.
Halloween.
I think at that point, we can have counsel appointed. I'd like to set a new trial date, obviously. I don't believe counsel will be prepared within the next couple of months to try a case of this magnitude in January. So we'll set dates for the trial. I think we need to set a date as well for the suppression hearing that was filed now by former counsel. I have asked the attorneys to provide all of the discovery previously provided back to the state of Indiana. I know I entered a protective order on the discovery, and honestly, I don't remember when that was. I think it was in April of this year, perhaps, maybe sooner. But the attorneys have been ordered to provide all of that discovery back to the state. And if you would maintain that until such time as it can be turned over to successor counsel, I would appreciate that, Mr. McClellan. I've also asked the defense attorneys to cooperate with successor counsel. They're not required to do that, but I think that they will in the best interests of Mr. Allen. They're not required to provide any of their work product, but they will be required and have indicated that they will cooperate with successor counsel. So obviously, without counsel, Mr. Allen's hearing cannot proceed. I apologize that I know many of you have been waiting for several hours. I know, Mr. McClellan, you and your staff, and you had some witnesses here that came earlier to have the hearing, but clearly this is outside of our control. So is there anything, Mr. McClellan, that you'd like to state for the record?
No, Your Honor, I think we can address the other issues at the October 31st court date.
All right.
There we go.
That being said,
Look at
then,
that.
recess. Thank you. I'll see you in October.
October 31st. Here we go. Halloween. Not only going to celebrate Halloween, we're going to see what happens in that hearing on October 31st. That's going to be a tough one, you know. And, you know, the sad part about all this too is, you know, today he was supposed to get taken out of that prison so he can go to jail and not keep going through that abuse he says he's going through. But, you know, the worst thing about all this, the delays and this circus of enacts going on in this courtroom and the trial and everything going on with the pitches being released, who's it hurting? We don't even talk about this. We don't talk about these families that are suffering. I mean, what do you think's going on in their heads when they have to realize what's happening? Now they have to delay everything further and further. There's just no closure still. All that hurt and the pain that holds inside, and that's what they have to go through. And they have 2 rows, they said, set out for October 31st for the families to be there inside the courtroom, which I do think there'll be cameras. I do think they'll have video and audio of this whole trial all the way through. Because it's a small town, Delphi, Indiana. It's not just to where Richard Allen is the accused and alleged murderer of these 2 children. It's now coming up with this odism, ritualistic killings, the positions the bodies were found in. And now the pictures are leaked out. How long is it going to take before it's all over the internet or TMZ or all these other channels? How long? My alleged opinion here is it's going to happen before October 31st. That's what I think. And I feel they know it's coming right away. So those attorneys walked out. They're getting out now before everything gets even worse. And they knew it. But it does look like it was leaked from the defense. Just like they said, allegedly it was a former employee. It probably was. Probably said, you fired me, this is what I'm gonna do. And that's what happens. But again, Richard Allen, is he gonna walk? How's it gonna wind up? Is he gonna get sentenced and charged for this whole thing? And then maybe he didn't do anything. We don't know. Because you gotta remember, he doesn't even have a criminal background record. He's 100% clean. Worked at a pharmacy technician. So October 31st will be the trial to see what's going to happen. And a lot of things are going to come up on this trial as far as the pictures being out and then moving him, he feels, to the safer place, the jail, because he's not convicted. So everybody, Johnny Guns Investigation, bringing you guys some information that just came out today. And then we'll keep you guys updated on this case all the way through, because we got to keep going and give these families closure. And these little girls, Abby and Libby, it's all for Abby and Libby. They're the ones who had to suffer the most through this whole ordeal. It's unbelievable. So everybody, hit that like button, subscribe, and there's plenty more to come from. I hope you guys enjoy your Thursday night. Johnny Guns Investigation signing off. And remember, guys, be safe out there. Have a great night.